somebody said, you know, I only hear background people speaking in English, and that is not my experience of New York at all. Like as soon as I get off the plane, I hear 100 different languages, and like I also they were like, I don't hear any Caribbean accents in the background. Like that's not my experience of New York. I thought that was so smart. And when I watched the final version, you do hear more of it. Like they went and they did that. They took that note and changed it. I think it's the little things like that, the attention to these kinds of details that Pixar has always been great at.
What's it like trying to, film something and shoot something with these protocols? Like how much has it changed the experience as a performer?
It's totally different. I mean, and so like I've as an actor worked on Snowpiercer a little bit during this time, and then I'm on the other side of it with Blind Spotting. I'm like a writer producer, and so and it's pretty different. The interaction between everybody has to be so much more separate. So whatever your job is, you kind of kick it with the people who's also have your same job, right? Departments aren't allowed to mix the way they used to. Everybody has taped off areas on the floor where this is where you stand this far away from everybody else, so that like if you go down, only people in your group are going to go down. Like it's really intense. The relationship between actor and director is crazy because you only talk to each other behind a mask and behind a shield. And you also rehearse your scenes with these masks and shields on. So a friend of mine who's a director told me you just got to get used to the scene being crap until you're rolling, right? Because like you don't understand the emotional import of anything until the only time masks are allowed to come off is when you're actually rolling, and so then you can see it. It is so it's just a very different relationship. It is impressive, I think, that we're able to do it at all, and that people, and that there are sets that are managing to maintain safety. Like I am impressed by it, and our COVID team in both of the things I've worked on during this time are really, really on top of it, and constantly up to date with the information, and like creating new policy in real time. And if you can create, and this is like a sort of our as showrunners jobs, like trying to create an environment on set where people are receptive to it and don't, your knee-jerk response when somebody walks by you and taps you on the shoulder and is like, put your shield down, like, or whatever, the like knee-jerk response would be like, bro, I'm trying to, like, you get frustrated with them. And so there's a lot of sort of culture building of like, hey, we actually need each other to do that. We should all be checking each other all the time. Because most importantly, I understand that everybody needs to work, but I also understand that like you are choosing to work here to a certain extent. And there are two things that really stress me out as a creator right now. One is that the idea of anybody getting sick from events on our set is really, really stressful to me. I don't like it. I am so scared of it all the time that it makes being on set very stressful. And the other part of it is the pressure to make it good. If you have a day where like the stuff you shot isn't really that good, the first thing that goes through my mind is like, why the fuck did all these people risk their lives today? Right. Like right. You just really need the work to be good so that people can, so that as a company or as a group, we can look at it and say, well, it's crazy that we're doing this, but we're making something good. And so I want everybody to be really proud of the stuff that we're making. So it's these two like very stressful things. Whereas like pre-COVID, you could have, some days you just don't get great stuff, and you'll fix it in the edit and it's whatever, but you don't feel the magic on set every day. And that's fine. But now it doesn't really feel fine. Like those days are really, really hard.
Does it make you a little bit more self-conscious about your own performance? Because I imagine I have zero acting experience other than playing myself. Okay, I've done it a few things, but from what I have personally witnessed and obviously what I see on screen, there's a certain amount of energy and emotion you need to be able to generate and to play off people. The mask and the protocols are taking a lot of that, understandably so, because safety is number one, are taking that part away. So is it harder to tell now whether or not something is good that you've done because of what you have to go through just simply to shoot?
I think, well, two things. I think for the most part, for me and for the other actors that I've worked with, like we understand this is what we have bought into. So this is what we're doing now. And so you just roll with it, and when in the moments when the masks are off and when cameras are rolling, you are just fully committed and doing the thing. But I think also for the particular kind of actor that I am, particularly in the film and TV space, I never know if I'm doing anything good or not. So that part hasn't changed. I just sort of do the thing and rely on my directors to be like, more of this, less of this. But I'm not watching it. I think if I'm at a point where I'm watching myself while I'm doing it, I already know it's not good. So that's I kind of have to just tune that out and do the thing. That's always been how I am. I don't have that kind of, I haven't spent enough time watching, like consuming TV and film stuff with my work in that as an actor is relatively new, I think, compared to all of the acting I've done. I feel like on stage, I tend to know what I look like for the most part. And also it's a different experience telling this full story from far away. TV, like, they're going to chop it up into a million pieces and use whatever works, and like literally everybody there is there to make sure you look good. So like there's a little bit of a, for me, I think I've realized that the way that I am capable of going about it is just by making sure that I understand the tone of the thing and making sure that I'm in agreement with all of the other creatives on it, and then just going and doing it and immediately letting it go after it's done and being like, well, now it's somebody else's job to take that and make it make sense. Like, that's not my job. I'm not the editor. So.
Well, my guess is because of COVID and the shooting parameters you have to work around, that you will be seeing a lot more animated movies. And along those same lines, I watched it last week, Soul. I'm not a big animated movie person. I was struggling. I think the last animated movie that I saw was The Incredibles. So it's been like, I've never seen Finding Nemo. I've never seen, like, I have missed a whole, slate of animated movies. So This is not my genre. I can't tell you how much I love Soul. And this is the Pixar film that premiered on Disney Plus. I think it was Christmas Day. And, it was, everything about it was just really well done, phenomenal. And, not to sound corny, but I mean, representation does matter. And it's so much subtle and obvious representation in this. And you're a part of one of, I think, the best scenes in the movie, the barbershop scene, right?
Seems amazing.
Yes, it is amazing because they nail like small details, like completely correct, Right. And so I'd love to hear from you, just like what that experience was like. And I assume you've seen it in full.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What, and just once you saw it in full, what you thought, but just talk about the experience.
Well, I wasn't supposed to do that voice initially. I was just brought on as part of, Pixar has been doing this thing for a while now. I'm not sure when it started, but they have these like cultural councils where it's like, this is their first film ever with a Black protagonist. So they just brought in hella Black people to like watch really early versions of the film before it was animated. Like I came in maybe 5 or so times just watching animatics. So just sort of stationary drawings kind of laid out in the order of the movie with dialogue and stuff in place and temp sound effects and all that. And then sat in on these note sessions that were, like there were people like me, or like Quincy Jones was part of this thing. There were folks who were kind of like artists or whatever, sort of celebrated in their respective fields. But then there were also just folks from the community who they would just bring in, and I would sort of sit in these note sessions and watch them very meticulously take down everything that everybody said. And like some of the things were amazing and some of the things were ridiculous. Like Black people don't wear belts, you know, like what are you like, you know, like just like, but somebody wrote everything down. And then sort of watching the process of them synthesizing all of this information to create something that does feel, I think you're right, representation does matter. I don't remember who gave this note, but one of the coolest notes I heard in one of these sessions was somebody said, you know, I only hear background people speaking in English, and that is not my experience of New York at all. Like as soon as I get off the plane, I hear 100 different languages, and like they were like, I don't hear any Caribbean accents in the background. Like that's not my experience of New York. I thought that was so smart. And when I watched the final version, you do hear more of it. Like they went and they did that. They took that note and changed it. I think it's the little things like that, the attention to these kinds of details that Pixar has always been great at. But that just being behind the scenes on it was cool in this moment to get to watch them sort of actualize all of these things that they were hearing. And then they asked me to do Paul, and it was super fun. Yeah, I love animation. I'm on the other side of that. Like I watch all kinds of animated things, and I've been a Pixar fan for a long time. Pixar's in the Bay also. Like Pixar was our version of the Magic Castle, you know, like nobody went in there. So and I remember I had some, you know, in my early 20s, I had friends who worked there. And so I think I like shot a music video partially in like a basement down there one time. They like snuck me in late at night and we used other equipment, shoot some things. This is the first time I've admitted that, but yeah. So getting to be sort of behind that curtain and see how that all works is very cool. And I do think that barbershop scene is pretty special. And it is trying to thread a needle that's pretty difficult in a kid's movie. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like it is, I think it's hard to capture the reality of that experience in a way that also like manages to avoid kind of the easy traps of like overly using profanity or anything. Like it really like gets at the heart of the thing. And it's a short scene and still manages to tell a bunch of story. Like it is just a really impressive piece of filmmaking. And yeah, so I just, you know, animation is one of those great things where for me, getting to do voice work is like I get all of the same highs that I get from performing in any other sense, but I don't have to put clothes on. I don't have to do anything, you know, like it's just, I just show up and do it and we get to play. My favorite part of any process is the rehearsal, and doing voice work feels like all rehearsal and then I get to go home. So like you try 100 different things and they're all good and everybody says, great, we'll cut something together. Awesome. You know, then we all go home. You got any ideas? Yeah, let me try it one time this way. Okay, I'm gonna try. Oh yeah, you're right. That totally doesn't work. Oh.